Yo, what up, quarantine people? On this episode on Vibin in the Bird's Nest. Jump around, jump up and get down. Welcome everybody to the Bird's Nest. I am Jay Byrd, and I'd like to say hello to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple, and yellow. And what we got in the building today, someone from one of the most iconic hip hop groups of all time. He's a graphic designer. He's a conceptual genius, and he makes sure everyone is staying gold. From the groups House of Pain and La Coka Nostra, welcome, Danny Boy. How's it going, Danny Boy?
My man Jay, long time, man.
I know it's a
We
long
go
time.
we go back, man.
We go
Like
way
30
back
something
before this.
years.
Yeah, I see
I
we
mean
both
80s.
80s. Yeah.
Always Yankees down to the brim. Hey, I'm thinking about it today before you called. I'm like, man, we go back to like stealing bowling shoes from the bowling alley and rocking them to dance and overalls and fluffy white socks and all kinds of valley hip hop. We just so many different mutations of like the styles back then, man. But you
Right.
and Guy and all the cats used to dance with and just
Yep,
we used to be running
Brandon.
around, man.
Yeah, Brandon,
Brandon, yeah, I
brother.
still talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still see Brandon on the Instagram, man. I sent him some. Ironically, man, I think like a lot of other people on the planet, with the idle time and the timeouts because of this pandemic, I've been going through a lot of old photos, CDs that I have, putting them. I had to even buy a CD drive to upload. Just going through my archives, really, and I
Uh,
found a bunch of photos of our old friend Brandon, who was with the Scheme team, and even we knew
uh,
him way before, even all that, and.
uh,
Just was like an icon of that era, man. I mean, it was like the Jimi Hendrix of that, like the of hip hop dancing, and I sent him a bunch of photos, man. Just of so many different eras prior to everybody now having a phone at the ready. I mean, everything is over documented at this point, but back
yeah.
then it was rare to have photos, and I actually had a lot of Brandon, so it's crazy that you said
Uh,
that, but. Yeah, what a
that's
trip. We're
dope.
still here, so that's good. Knock on wood, man.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of cats ain't, a lot of cats ain't. So
Yeah, the
I'm
quarantine
happy
going
that
okay for you?
it is. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, of all
Yeah.
places, man. And
Mm,
the Midwest didn't get as hit as the coastal cities did. So
mm,
I think we were kind of last to lock down. The governor just put on the first, which is 2 days ago, said that essential businesses could open up, restaurants could open up for with like smaller crowds and for
mm.
takeout. So they're already starting to initiate the phase one of the rollout that you could go back to work and whatnot. It's still like in gradual steps, but we did okay compared to New York. I talked to a lot of cats still in New York who are like they're like, and I had just left there prior to it,
Oh wow.
breaking out, and I was
Yeah.
like, wow, they got kind of hit hard. So
Yeah, I talked to a lot of my friends that were actually had it that got real sick. They're like, I thought I
yeah,
was I was writing my will. I was saying goodbye to people. I thought I was gonna die.
yeah. A few of my dudes are active NYPD, and my man got that. He was one of like 200 something cops that got it. So
Oh
it's
wow.
crazy. The NYPD got hit hard with it. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this
crazy.
crazy times. Well, let's get into the story, man. But I don't want to go in chronological order because I wanna hype on something that one of your projects that would never really came through all the way that I find I love it. It's dope. It's the X supermodels.
Yo, come on, move the breathe. Put the pump in your grill to squeeze. Say what? Say back on up. Last time ain't a damn thing.
Oh wow, I didn't even know you knew that. How did that happen? I mean, in a nutshell, here's the deal. Like, okay, and this ain't chronological, but it could be. So, like, I knew you from like around the high school era, man. It was like we were doing backyard parties, Keith Durr and Money Boy Productions. I was always like, and you're one of them. I can count on like both hands the amount of like white b-boys in the valley at that time that were really official with it, and we stood out because it wasn't many of us. So it was very few white dudes at Sherman Square roller rink,
right.
going to see hip hop shows because it just wasn't like that. And so I was always a b-boy. I was born in New York, raised in Los Angeles, and every summer I would go back to New York and New Jersey because my mother was like, it's easier to send him back because my father was never around. He was always in prison, and then he was gone. And so I had that experience, like I like to call it like a poor man's Glenn Friedman experience. And Glenn Friedman, if you don't know who that is, do the Googles. You'll be like, yo, I mean, the dude started off in the 70s at 14 doing all the Dogtown skateboard photos. Then started doing all the punk photos of like Minor Threat and Bad Brains and all that. Then basically did all your favorite Def Jam covers from, Takes a Nation to Beastie Boys. It's just Glenn E. Friedman. Google that. And that is kind of the experience I had, because I would go every summer back to New York. I'm rocking OPs, lightning bolts, Vans. And back in the day, Vans, that nobody knew what that was unless you were on the West Coast, because it was a mom and pop brand, Van Doren. So only older kids was like, yo, you're from LA, huh? And I'm like, yeah, how do you know? Because they were reading either, Trans World Skateboarder magazine or Thrasher or whatever, even before Thrasher. So they knew I was from, and then I would come back at the end of summer with WBLS mixtapes, Fat Laces, spent all summer looking for where I could get a name belt buckle so I could put Danny Boy in the brass buckle.
Yeah.
And so it was like a cultural exchange, obviously pre-cell phone, pre-internet. So I was like, I had a little extra sauce because cats didn't know what time it was like that. And so in the Valley, like I said, there was only a handful of us. High school, I really just hung out, man. I didn't know what I was going to do for a living. And then I seen Scarface probably around the same time we all saw it, about 15 years old. I thought, man, that looks doable. You feel me? So I'm like, I started messing around, you know what I mean? And I had really no life plans. And so knowing Everlast from around the way, he had a deal with Rhyme Syndicate, did a solo record, living with Divine at the back of the hut with Blau and they're doing hip hop in one area, we're doing graffiti over here, we're dancing over there. Just it was like there was something special about the San Fernando Valley in that time, because if you're successful in Hollywood, you move to the Valley. When you made it, you get yourself a nice house, a pool, and some suburban lifestyle. Something off. So there was New Edition at the park playing basketball in that park. We had, we could drop names all day long. There was notable drug dealers, notable basketball stars, notable. I remember Daryl Strawberry when he moved to the Valley. I remember so many heads was coming through. Tyson was coming through. There was like an influx of just heads, and so we started. We put House of Pain together when Eric, was off the Rhyme Syndicate shit. Thing went well. We sold a lot of records, had a lot of good times, and then it fell apart after 3 records. And it really, what I was trying to enunciate, going back, a minute or two ago, is that like I was fucking around all that time. I really never took life like, oh, what am I going to do when I grow up? So when House of Pain happened for me, I was 20, 21 years old. After moving the crowd a little, I don't know how we could talk on your.
Go ahead. It's all
okay.
Good.
So I was just gonna say, like prior to doing music, I was doing a lot of like white collar crime and maybe moving the crowd a little something. So I was doing everything that you shouldn't be doing if you like to be free, And so I was doing, and you can only do that so long. And so when House of Pain happened, it felt like it was miraculous. It pulled me out of that life, which was good. We still had that credibility of that street stuff, but now I'm making legitimate money and money I never imagined. But what happens is when that thing falls apart after 3 records and we go our separate ways, those 2 dudes, Lethal and Everlast, Lethal's our DJ and Everlast is Everlast, they were musicians by trade. So they fall back into music, or they go back into their, Everlast goes solo and gets a Grammy and sells millions of records, and Lethal joins Limp Bizkit, which, they were opening for us on the road, and he was producing the first record, and they sold, 30,000 records. And me, I'm like, well, now what do I do?
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
And instead of selling, now I'm starting to use them.
Right.
Because it was like a crutch. So I spent like 4 years downward spiral, man, until I lost everything: the cars, the houses, the jewelry, all that stuff. You know what I mean? It goes by the wayside, and then slowly, like, my mind, my soul, my body is the last to go. And so in 2000, I get sober, and I start to dream again. I dare to dream again, because dreaming is costly, man. You could. There's people who dream and they never have any ambition to follow through. If I dream, it's dangerous, because it's like I know I'm 100% or I'm out. You feel me? So I'm starting to dabble in dreaming again, and I'm like, man, I'm listening to a lot of like trip hop at the time. I like down tempo breaks, but I
Okay.
like stuff like I like Uncle and Crystal Method and Chemical Brothers. And at that time, those groups were like popping, and they
Right.
took what like I liked about hip hop, but now it was like on another realm. Now it's going into like where Divine Styler was trying to go in the '80s, like into some spacier realms. And I'm like, yo, I want to do a group where we take the best of these dudes and put it together. There was the original concept of like doing a hip hop super group, but just never realized because it was me at first with this other dude who had never produced a record in his life. He was actually doing background music for pornos. And I was like, yo, bro. But he worked at a record store, worked at Beat Nonstop on Melrose. And so we
Nice.
started
I
talking
remember.
and we started making dope ass. He started killing the soundscapes and we put break beats to it. I called Divine Styler. Divine Styler came in. Then I recruited Ryu from Styles of Beyond. He started rhyming with us. And I had a few other heads I'm trying to think who came on there. DJ AM did the scratches on all that record. And we got signed to The Firm, which was a big management company who managed, Limp Bizkit, Korn, Pamela Anderson. They had like the whole Hollywood on lock in that era.
Nice.
Unfortunately for me, what I did not know was that they weren't doing a label to do a label. They were doing a label to prop it up and sell it immediately to BMG. They did a few records before my record, which failed miserably because they managed the Backstreet Boys. And I guess one of the Backstreet Boys' girlfriend had did a record. It flopped. They dropped another record, which I don't remember what record it was. It flopped. Mine was the next in the chain to come out. And they pulled the plug on the label because they were hemorrhaging like big money trying to do that. So I walked with the cash. My heart was broken because I felt like, man, I'm like, here's my big chance to get back. These dudes are all popping. I need to get back on the map. And then the rug gets pulled out from under me. They gave me about $500,000. I spent it on sneakers that year. The only good thing that came out of it, I executive produced a sneaker documentary called Just for Kicks. But the ironic thing about it was we didn't even film my collection in that thing, which is, I don't even know how that happened. But believe me when I tell you. So now I'm back. I made that record. Record was cool. I felt like it was ahead of its time at that time. But again, after that whole thing fell apart, I just didn't want to do music anymore. So
Yeah, but I just want to stop you there real quick though.
Yeah.
I just want to say like we got robbed because I want to give you your props because you killed on that project. You killed it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, that like I work out to that music when I'm feeling like sluggish and I put like back on up on like I'm ready to go. Like
I mean, the ironic thing is those were only demos too. We never really, it got set out to get like mixed by another dude and he cut out some of the stuff. I mean, those were all working demos. The record never really they fucked up and funded it. They because they were a new label and because they were making so much money in the management game, they really gave me the money up front. They didn't give it to me in 3 stages. They weren't like, here, get your beak wet. They just gave me $350,000, and then I got like a $350,000 publishing deal. So I just was like, oh, fuck. So we just sat around making those records. When the record didn't come out, we just walked. And it's funny that you brought that up, man, because my other homeboy was from New York. Was like, yo, I still got these CD twice this week. Someone brought up Supermodels, man. Someone hit me out of the blue, showing me a picture of a demo that I must have sent him. But someone was telling me to put it on SoundCloud or one of those things and just put it out just to for heads to have it. I'm like, I don't, so maybe I will. But the project I had high hopes for, I feel also it inspired a few other groups, which I won't, it is what it is. But that was the whole point of it. So I got heartbroken and I fell back in drug addiction right after that, man, which was the sad part. Because when I made that record, I was clean. I started that record at the end of year 1 of sobriety, started to dream again, got that big check. Being sober, man, a lot of people think that like when bad things happen, you might be subject to relapse, but equally is when you get too many good things that happen. You start to go, I don't need God no more.
Right.
I got the wheel from here, God. I'm hip, slick, and sick again. You feel me? I don't need to. Maybe I don't really need to. Maybe I didn't have a problem. If someone gives you, a little over $500,000 in cash, basically, you're like, maybe I've got a problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, I started to think, maybe I don't have a problem, and I had to find out the hard way. So I relapsed after that, man. After having 3 years of clean and sober time, and it took me almost 3 years to get back. I come back, man. I was living in a warehouse in Hollywood. on a couch with no teeth in my mouth. My last car got impounded and sold at auction. I had a warrant for my arrest, no health insurance, no valid license. They wanted $2,000 for back taxes for $150,000. My life was a wreck, man. So I
Yeah.
barely, but by seconds and inches. That's why I say to be here now in 2020, people are talking like pandemic, this, that, and the third. I know it's a problem. It's life on life's terms. But to be honest with you, bro, any day on this side of the soil, it has the potential to be a great day. It's up to you. You know what I mean?
Right. And when you
find the good in it.
When you get knocked down, you have to know how to get back up, and you're living proof of that for sure.
But that's again, that is the 6 times down, 7 times up. I mean, it is what it is.
Right. Exactly.
So I did it. Yeah. So the ex supermodel thing was cool, man. I thought it was going to be something special. Ironically, when I look back now and part of going through those archives was like photos and CDs, I came across all of those ex supermodel CDs and stuff. And I started to think, man, it's weird because that whole scene of music that I was just saying, like Crystal Method, Chemical Brothers, Uncle, Propeller Heads, all of that kind of like, it's dead too. Like it's not a thing anymore. Like there's no radio play for that at all. You don't see it in any soundtracks, any movies, it was like a little hot spot of like creatives at that time. Moby, like, they were like, and then it's gone. So I don't know, maybe that's one of those, is that a bird?
No, that's my dog.
I was like, Jay-Bird got a bird too. I was like, oh, snap, you got a mascot. Now you got to get a bird, man.
Yeah, I got to get a bird.
You got to get you a bird, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
now, I was going to say, at that time too that you were doing that, I was in a band, and ironically, the name of the band was called Rumblefish. And we were doing similar type of style, but we were doing it with like Crazy Town and Epic, and
I did a song with them around that time, right after that record deal fell apart, or that label fell apart. I did a song called Gun in Your Mouth with Crazy Town that went on some soundtrack or something like that. And I did that Zoolander that Power Man 5000 did Relax, and I spit the 16 on that for the thing, and that was at the end. I mean, when I look at that video, we shot that video at the old graffiti art, which is no longer there, which is God damn, I can't remember. How can I forget that? But it was downtown LA. It was an old train tunnel, starts with the B. It'll come to me. But and I see the video, and I had just relapsed, so I could see him. When you're not on your square, when you see photos, you're like, yikes! Like I could tell I was on one. But again, that was cool times. That record never came out. I still got it in my back pocket. Maybe I'll put it out on SoundCloud or one of those things, and just so people could have it. But going through all those records, man, and going through all that stuff was a trip, because there's a whole bunch of, stuff in those years that kind of just like, fell by the wayside. And that's why I say it's dangerous to dream, but it's the only, if you have the ambition to follow it, because, and I'm thinking and speaking, which I don't like to do out loud, but what I'm trying to say is this, man. It's like, for every successful project you see, I can guarantee you there's 100 other, maybe even better ideas that fall by the wayside. You fall right on your face trying to do them, and it is what it is. But it's never, at least in my experience, it's never win after win after win after win. It's usually one win and everybody sees it, and then 1,000 failures, hopefully behind closed doors, where you're learning.
Right.
And then another one comes up and they're like, yeah, he did it again. But I've never sat idle in between projects. I've always been working on a project. You probably never heard of them because they just didn't win. They just didn't go. They shoulda, coulda. They might even been, better, but the planets just have to align in every area for these kind of like creative projects to really go. It's the craziest part of being a creative, because it's not about the amount of work you put into it. Normal logic tells you work hard and you'll get a good result. Right. And you still get good results, but they won't necessarily, in entertainment, they don't necessarily come in the form of fame and fortune. And that's not what we do it for, but it's how we're rated or judged by the amount of monetary success or the amount of shine it gets. Of course. And so yes, it's crazy that way, because you could work round the clock. I mean, that's really how I fell into drugs. I fell into methamphetamines because I was like, I need to go and stay up copious amount of hours to work as hard as I need to work to make up for lost time. Right. That's really the allure originally for me with drugs, bro. Wow. And it made me drink with impunity, because I could
Right.
drink with and not like fall out.
Right.
And I just was in there where I was, you said, when you introduced me, you're like creative director, artist, like a lot of things I forgot I even did or do. Because at that time, man, I'm painting a canvas here. I'm working on a record here. I'm trying to do a clothing line here. And I thought I was doing it because I was staying up all these hours, writing the bios, I was writing a column for Mass Appeal magazine, doing an OMG column on product. I'm writing a column for Warp magazine Japan. Meanwhile, none of these things really pay. You feel me? Like you write a column for a magazine, it's like $200 every quarter.
Right.
You feel me? And so like that's like beer money. And for a sober guy, I don't need. You know what I mean? It's like so you're really doing it for the culture. You're doing it for the creative vibe. You're doing it for the relevance.
Right.
But you really at seeds and stems when you're trying to put a living together, and eventually you get taxed by it. And so unfortunately, a lot of people discover drugs that way, you know what I mean, to keep them in the game, to keep them fighting. But what usually happens is it's fun, then it's fun with problems, then it's just problems, and it was problems really quick for me. And so to come out of all of that, man, one is miraculous to do, and then to realize I think a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people too that pull me aside and be like, yo, I don't know how you did this. I need to get sober, but I'm scared if I get sober, I'll lose my gift. Because a lot of times they think it's part and parcel and that they're connected somehow. Like I won't be able to rhyme and go deep with the shit I'm doing if I'm not on drugs to do this shit. I've never done it sober.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, that's the thing. You got to try to do it sober. You got to maybe work harder at sober. And I know a few cases I'm talking at the top, but my man Slane in particular, man, he was really worried about he might not be able to do what he does without the crutches of drinking and using. And now he found that he does it 10 times better sober. You know what I'm saying? But it's a scary proposition to think, man, if I let this go, even though it's killing me, I might lose, and
because I never done it. Yeah.
Bro, and that's the fear that most addict alcoholics have, man. It's the two primal fears. One fear is losing what little precious resources I have, and two, the other fear is never being able to get what I truly want in life. And those are, if you caught in between those two, man, you get stuck right there and never break the chain. So it's one of those things, man. To be on this side of it, to still be on this side of the dirt doing what I do. It's a blessing, man, and I work every day at it. But I look back like, man, and I'm sure every generation does it. But when I'm thinking right now of a lot of dudes that we used to run with, man, they're not here no more. And if they're here, they're on Wounded Knee or worse.
Right. Yeah. Matt Champy comes to mind right off the bat when you say that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, of course, man. And that, people who don't know that we dedicated the Jump Around video to him. He was like going to be like the fifth member of House of Pain, but he was a really good kid that used to run around with us. And I think in like 1 month, he made a lot of bad decisions. He went from just being a normal kid to getting down with like the rave culture because he was in love with this girl, and he started to do drugs that month. And they stole a tank of Whippets, which is nitrous oxide, from the back of a Northridge hospital. They put it in the back of their pickup truck. They stole balloons at a 7-Eleven, and they put the nozzle through the split window. I mean, to me, it sounds like no big deal. At 18 and 19, you don't realize, unless you're like a science kid, that gas eats air. So when they turn that nozzle on and that Whippet shit is blowing full force, it's eating all the air. The 3 of those kids died in a truck that night. And so it's the stupidest way to die, man. I mean, I'm still mad at him 30 years later.
Right.
Like, bro, you died sucking fucking Whippets from balloons? Like, it's so crazy to me. But yeah, that's how, there before the grace of God go me or you, man, because we used to do stupid shit like that all the time.
Right.
And so believe me when I tell you.
Let's take it back, man, because I have a funny story for you, because I did not know that you had hooked up with Everlast, with Eric. And so you guys got together, you guys went to high school, we all hung out together, and then you linked up with Tommy Boy, which is one of like the most iconic hip hop labels that there is. Like when you think of hip hop,
sure.
Tommy Boy. So Yo MTV Raps, like that's the staple. Like back in the day, like that's like religion. Every day you got to watch Yo MTV Raps.
You get your moves down too.
Yeah. and so what I saw one day is I saw Danny Boy walking down the street in New York with fucking Fab Five Freddy. I don't know if you remember that interview. You guys dropped like your video and your song at the same time. It wasn't like
Right.
the song came out and then, well, I mean, that's how,
Right.
in my eyes, I saw, yeah.
Sure.
So I'm like, whoa, why is Danny Boy on Yo MTV Raps? What's up, man? I had all the fellas over. I'm like, yo, come on. So, yeah, then Everlast came in the interview and then and the video dropped and I was like, oh man, this shit is going to be fucking off the hook. So I went out after that. I went out to the record store. I couldn't find it yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that was early. I mean, literally, we went to New York that month. It was early March, and we were filming a video. The original video was not going to be Jump Around. It was going to be Come and Get Some of This, which is a grimier, darker vibe. It was on the 3-song demo that Everlast originally had made, which was Put Your Head Out with Be Real, Jump Around, and Come and Get Some of This. And we were in New York filming at a place called The Vault, which was famous for being in Madonna's book, that sex book. Right. It was a dungeon, and it was an S&M club, a notorious S&M club in New York City. I hope they sprayed that down. I might be corona-proof just from filming a video in that motherfucking spot, because it was nasty. I mean, it smelled like bleach in that bitch. But it had chains and black walls and fucking weird shit in there. And we were filming literally all day long. We must have been in there 6 hours, like in there filming in this sweat box. And I remember one of the executives coming in from Tommy Boy and Monica Lynch, who was the vice president, saying like, pull the plug. I was like, oh, what, they shut it down? What's going on? We thought, you know, being an old school, like we're fired somehow. Like somebody did something, we're fired, it's over, the joke is over. And they were like, no, we're changing plans right now. Hold on, everybody come outside. And they're like, what if we do Jump Around and we go up to the St. Patty's Day parade? Oh. We were like, yeah, let's do that. So we stayed another weekend. It was like a weekend. So March 17th is St. Patty's Day. That I do know. So we were probably filming on March 10th when they said, well, you stay a week. We'll put you up at the Paramount Hotel, pay all your expenses, give you per diem. You guys run around Manhattan for a week. Hell yeah. We'll be back at the parade, of course. So when we did that, and so when we did that, it was only like a month later or so that I remember being in LA. And Amanda Demi and Happy Walters were our manager, Buzztone, and they were like, yo, come, and they managed us in Cyprus at the time. And they're like, yo, come up to this thing. We got the copy of the video on VHS. We want you to see it, see what you think. And man, when I seen it, I was like, oh. Like you knew it was a hit. I already knew the song was a hit, but that was just in my head. When I saw the video matched to the thing, I'm like, yeah, if it wasn't a hit, I don't care. I'm showing it to everybody to see it. Everybody can know the part. I'm forcing everybody to see this motherfucker, because I was when you see your own stuff and you're like, oh wow, it like impresses you. Right. All your friends are like, they're acting some type of a way. It's like it's the next. Yeah. So we knew that at least I knew that, now, did anybody know that we'd still be talking about it, almost 30 years later? No, absolutely not. I mean, so many songs were like as big and have come and gone. This one became an institution. I mean, it's at every sporting event that you could ever. I get text or a hit on Facebook. They do a thing in Wisconsin. I guess the football team, the Badgers, adopted it as their anthem because of the COVID-19 thing and social distancing. The radio station plays it, and they all come out of their houses in Wisconsin and they sing it and they film it, and it's like, so it just keeps turning into something different for a whole new generation of people. Now, that being said, I did not write that, so Everlast and Muggs share that money. So I don't think they'll ever have to get out of bed again and worry about working, because that thing pays good. The kid don't get to share in that anymore. But again, it's one of those things, man. It's a blessing to be a part of anything that I've been a part of. It all brought me here. And, this is, I finally found my true, but what I didn't know, what I know now is you get involved in projects and you feel like you're doing something, you're moving the needle, and that's all good. A lot of it is ego driven, and a lot of it is just, you do what you like to do. You know what I'm saying? Right. But I lacked a real purpose in my life, and I finally found that purpose here in Oklahoma. And we can touch on, what I do now, absolutely, why I do what I do. But that came from La Coka Nostra.
Drop that shit one time. Drop that shit one time. Drop that shit one time.
After Ex Supermodels, man, I went back on drugs for about another 4 years and was in a downward spiral. And that's when I met a kid named Slane from Boston, who was a House of Pain fan and was like, yo, if I fly, he had a drug dealer who was paying for his like demos and shit. He's some kid in Boston, and the kid was like, yo, I'll fly you out to do a spit 16 on my man's record and put you, you know, and we were like, yeah, no doubt. And I'm like, yo, and I got to bring an assistant. But I really brought this other kid, Big Left, another rapper that I had met from the Bronx. It was a good kid. He was originally in the Coka Nostra, and then his family he couldn't travel and do all the stuff. So he opted out eventually. But I took Left, and we got so high. I got so high. Left didn't even get high. And Slane used to get high. We didn't even know Slane was getting down like that, but I was getting down like that. But I ran out of shit. So I was assed out. I was like, in a hotel, like hiding, because I was so high. And Left rhymed instead of me on a record, and then later but wait, what I'm trying to get at is I met this kid Slane. Me and Lefty went out there. The three of us had some magic going on. I didn't rhyme that night, but Lefty and Slane did. Eventually, I brought that back to Lethal, and I said, "Yo, we got to sign these dudes," because Lethal had a deal at Geffen to make records. And Lethal had been working with another kid named Optimist, who was another insanely talented kid who went on to do some singing instead of rapping, which is crazy because he had the ability to do R&B and hip hop at like the highest level. And I'm talking like the highest level.
That's dope.
And Lethal was like, you know what? I don't want to make 3 whole records here. Can we make one group out of these dudes? So we started to like groom them in that way. I'm going to do all the logos and all of that. And that's really how I got my way into hip hop. Just so everybody out there is like, I was always a B-boy, and I was always like, I like to think cutting edge with the shit I did, but I was more of I could see it visually where a lot of dudes couldn't. If you're a great MC, you're probably not great at all the other stuff in the peripheral.
Right.
Today's kids and today's artists got to be 360, meaning that they got to be, you know, they got to do the elements, all the elements, man. I mean, that's what really got me into hip hop, was that it was all the elements that make the culture of hip hop were appealing to me. It was an art form I had never seen before. It's graffiti. It was a way of speaking that I had never heard before, which is the way we talk. It was rhyming to over beats. It was an instrument I had never heard before, which was scratching with the turntable and juggling beats and that shit. And it was really the fashion that got me too, because I'm like, yo, shell toes and the Puma suedes and the fat laces and the whole shit, Kangles, and we were enamored, you too, because I know you know, we were with the Filas and the Elises and the fucking all of it. And so it's part and parcel to that shit. So I'm a B-boy, but I'm not rhyming like these dudes rhyme. I spit a little bit. We all kind of dabbled in all of that shit. I break dance. There was a dance form we'd never seen before, popping and breaking.
Love it.
Those 5 things make the culture, and we're on the fringe of it. We're like early in it, like everybody else. You feel me? And so I'm like, Eric spits fire, but he needs to articulate it a little bit more towards white kids who are going to buy these records and speak for us. You feel me? Like, we're out here too. Right. And I'm like, you're Irish, I'm Irish. Let's talk the shit we do, you know? So that was the genesis of that. So when I find myself now a decade later putting X Supermodels together, I'm trying to tell these kids, like, yo, just do this and we'll do the other part. Like, Lethal will produce, I will do all the aesthetics and get the, you know. And so we started fucking around with names, and they had horrible ideas, the Knockouts, Gasoline Alley. I mean, they were just like, I was like, guys, you're killing me. And what happened was they were getting a little loose too in the studio, man. Everybody had their own little like, you know, addiction going on. And finally, they were beefing in the studio. Lethal had this big $1 million Limp Bizkit money, you know, boards and all. It was like, you know, these cats were like shitting in tall cotton, because they went from like rhyming in like little burnt out studios to like this mega studio with Lethal's pulling up in a new car every day on 3-piece rims and jewelry dripping, and they're like, what the, you know?
When I just saw Lethal, he's always telling me, I got this SP 1200 collection. Every time he's so proud, every time he gets himself a new SP 1200, which people don't know is a drum machine
hooked up and
So,
So I'm in there trying to do this thing, and so after a while, these dudes, they're getting so high, they start to fight with each other. And I'm like, I'm not feeling it, right? I'm starting to see this thing is going to fall apart, because you got too many chefs, you know, too many chiefs, not enough Indians. You feel me? Everybody's trying to, and they're in their boxing, if you know what I'm saying. They're getting high. You feel me?
Right.
And so it's bringing out the worst. So finally, we got the 2-way pagers going, and so I stopped showing up to the studio. So finally, Big Left, the Italian from the Bronx, hits me. He's like, yo, D, you got to come through. Everybody's asking about you. Come on, man. We need you, bro. Where you at, Brody? And I'm like, y'all motherfuckers fight so much, I don't want to be down there no more. He goes, nah. It's good. We sorted it out. It's good. It's like one big family, La Coka Nostra. And I said, motherfucker, they're going to call you La Coka Nostra. You guys keep getting like you getting down there. You know what I'm saying? And it became the running joke. And that's how the name La Coka Nostra came at first, because I was like, these motherfuckers. So I was like, I'd call over there. I'd be like, yo, how's La Coka Nostra doing? They're like, come on, man. Quit calling us that, man. That ain't real. That ain't right. Yeah, I can hear you motherfuckers sniffing in the background, man. Quit telling me. I know what you're doing down there. I was down there. He was doing it too. And so it became the running gag. And then before long, I contacted Ill Bill, who was another one of my favorite MCs, man, from Nonfiction, which like, dude is like another one of those like icons in my book. Like he's like still like the underground, like king of that type of, you know, he was kicking New World Conspiracy, New World Order shit way before, you know what I mean, anybody had fucked with that shit. So I brought Bill into the fold. Bill brought a few of his dudes. And before long, we had like a 10-man group. We were calling it La Coka Nostra instead of this thing of ours, which is La Cosa Nostra, the mob. It was La Coka Nostra, this drug of ours, which makes sense because our music is drugs, really. You feel me? This is the drug of ours. This is our drug of choice. And out of the blue, Everlast hit me up. He was like, yo, I want to get down with you guys. And I was like, what? Yeah, I hadn't talked to dude in 10 years.
Yeah, what?
Know? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, you can get on the track. He's like, nah, I want to join the group. So we were like, you know, we had a meeting and they were like, yeah, I don't see why not. The dude writes hits and, you know, it's Everlast. So we brought him in and it was all good. And then, you know, eventually, you know, we went on our first tour, which brought me to Tulsa, Oklahoma. So it was a blessing in that. But, you know, when you have that many egos, I'm just going to get straight to it. And mine included, man. I'm not, you know, I don't ever, I'll just start there. You got too many chiefs and too many bosses and not enough, like everybody wants to do it their way. And eventually it strains a group. Right. And as you get older, especially if you already got your math right and you're already getting your money, you don't need the group anymore. Right. You know what I mean? And you don't want to be in a position where the group has to tell you, you know, you have to be here, you got to do that. People are like, fuck this, I'll do my own shit. So eventually La Coka Nostra is really now just me, Ill Bill, Slain, and DJ Eclipse. Lethal can come and go as he pleases, and Eric just doesn't choose to participate in it, so we kept it moving. Everybody else who was originally in it, they just full-time life gets in the way, man. And if you can't subsidize in between that by doing other shit, you really won't be able to stay in the group, because we didn't make that kind of money like we did with House of Pain. With La Coka Nostra, at first we did, you know, the record industry fell apart. But what that did was we did 3 records, 1 with Eric, 2 without. All of the records, they still, to me, I'm proud of all of them. They're all that. We, you know, we gave it 100% in all of that. And then the first tour that we had ever went on, it brought me through Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I had never been to Tulsa before in my life. I didn't know why, you know, it felt different, but we were here for 3 days, which means we were doing a show at the Cain's Ballroom, which is a historic ballroom here, which is akin to like CBGB's in New York. It's a rite of passage. Anybody has played Cain's Ballroom if you come through the Midwest, and that is from the Sex Pistols to Van Halen opened here for Montrose, which is ironic because, you know, that's Sammy Hagar's first group, you know, and they're opening for them in like 76 or 77, and like the Police, Metallica, you name any big band, when they come through now and play the BOK Center, which is like Staples, they go across the street to get their photo in front of Cain's Ballroom. It's an old Western swing dancing. It's done everything. It's had a big. It's changed throughout the year for what it was used for, but it has always been an event center. It's a small little, maybe 1,200 capacity spot. So I get there. We're playing there. I realized that Sex Pistols played there, which was like awesome. And then we had 3 days off because it would have been more expensive to go to Dallas and hold the band up for 3 days there. So we stayed in Tulsa. And while in those 3 days, it occurred to me that this place felt like home, and I couldn't place. I've been around the world 10 times, man, and never got to a spot where I'm like, damn, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I belong here. I feel like another part of me had like lived another life. It was just, I felt that way about Tulsa, and I couldn't place it. And, you know, the train's going through and I'm hearing like freight trains in the distance and the train horn and the sunsets are beautiful. But that ain't like, I mean, again, that's like LA got that minus the train horn. And then I started to think, man, Tulsa, I was like, son of a bitch. I think my favorite movie, The Outsiders, was filmed here.
The Outsiders. Pony Boy. Dallas. Johnny, Cherry,
Soda Pop, Daryl, 2-Bit, Steve, Bob. S.E. Hinton's classic novel comes to the screen, capturing all the intensity, all the excitement, all the emotions of youth. The Outsiders, directed by Francis Coppola.
And that leads me to go looking for these locations. We would drive at the time. I was like, yeah, absolutely, they filmed that here. So I go looking for locations, bro. I find the drive-in from the movie. I find the park where Johnny stabs the Soch. And by finding the park, I find the house. And it changed my life. One, I couldn't believe. I mean, we grew up in Cali, man, where nothing is sacred. Everything is filmed there, so we don't give a fuck because we're like too cool for school. But if we do like something that was filmed there, you can guarantee that in 10 years it'll probably be torn down, or a strip mall will go over it, or now a Starbucks will end up in that location, you know?
Right.
And so to be here and to be at the site of, you know, The Outsiders, and if people who don't know, The Outsiders is based on a book that was written here by a girl in 1967. She wrote it in 11th grade. At the time, she was failing out of English and got a D+ in creative writing. Okay, the book has never been out of print in 52 years, okay, which is miraculous. It sold more 2 years ago on the 50th anniversary than all the years combined. It is required reading for most 7th and 8th grade students in the U.S., but I'm going to tell you, pretty much all over the planet. It is also the book that English teachers give to kids who don't like to read, such as myself, because it is a book that usually gets them open because of the magic of what it is. It also is like, it is the first book ever. It's the book that starts the young adult category. So it's like, again, akin to like the first rap record, which I don't even know what the first rap record is.
Right.
That can't be Rapper's Delight, right?
I mean, Blondie rapped before Rapper's Delight
but
came
that's
out.
not a whole. She's not a rap, but that's not even. Nah. And so listen, this is the first time that a young adult writes a book about being a young adult for young adults. That is the largest category in book sales right now, mostly due to, like, you know, the Harry Potter and those type of books.
Right.
But it starts here from a 16-year-old girl who was failing out of English. And when she took it to the publisher the next year, they even agreed. They're like, look, no boys will ever buy this book if they know it's written by a girl. So instead of Susan Eloise Hinton, we're going to call you S.E. Hinton. As a kid, I thought it was like Steve Earle Hinton. I just assumed it was a dude.
No
and
doubt.
I still get people now. It's like, I love his work. I'm like, nah, it's not a him. You know, it's a her.
And she wrote it. She was 16.
Yeah, it's her first book. She wrote it in 11th grade, and she says she wrote 3 books before that never were published. The Outsiders is like the 4th one. She, you know.
Wow.
So in 1981, a librarian in Fresno, California, Miss Masikian, noticed that all her kids were like going nuts over this book that had been out already a decade by then. And she decides to have 100 of those students write a letter to Francis Ford Coppola, encouraging him to look at this book and turn it into a movie. Now, when I finally got a hold of her later on, and you know how that happens. People don't. I said, why of all the directors on the planet did you get the guy from The Godfather 1, 2, and 3 and Apocalypse Now, to do this, to do The Outsiders? She said, Danny, he did such a good job at staying true to the book of the Black Beauty that I thought, the Black Stallion, sorry.
Black Stallion,
the Black Beauty. They got me at the strip club again. That she thought it was a perfect fit. Now, what are the chances of 100 kids sending a letter in 81 to Francis Ford Coppola's production company, and then him actually getting the letter, reading the letter, agreeing to send out Fred Roos, the producer, to go buy the book, getting the book? Fred reads the book and goes, I love it. Francis, you're going to love it. Buying the rights to the book and then coming to Tulsa, her hometown, to film it. And so that's how the movie becomes, gets made. And then Fred Roos, who is also the producer, he's the casting agent, an incredible casting agent. He picked the cast of all casts. I mean, it's up there with Fast Times and casts like that, where just about everybody in that cast becomes way more famous. And the smallest role in there was Tom Cruise's, who's still one of the biggest stars on the planet. But the movie stars Tom Cruise. Well, it didn't star Tom Cruise back then, but it was Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, C. Thomas Howell, Diane Lane, Emilio Estevez, Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, like I already said, that's the Brat Pack.
Yeah, that cat was amazing.
And Rob Lowe. And Rob Lowe's still everywhere. Like, he's still doing it. So that cast was incredible. It is the story of the have and the have-nots. again, it's based on her life experience at this high school where, you know, rich kids outnumbered the poor kids, and there was the struggle that ensues, and she saw these rich jocks beating up on a poor kid, and it becomes the story. It's she writes the story, her own, you know,
version
novel about, yeah, it wasn't like a documentary. There's not real people. A lot of times I meet people, oh, my uncle was the real, you know, pony boy, and then she's like, no. So they're not, you know, and she's very clear about that. There's no real, but regardless, the movie gets made in 82. I must have been 13 or 14 when the movie came out. I remember seeing it like it was yesterday. I saw it at the Warner Twin over there up on, you know, whatever, DeSoto and
a Canoga or Owensmouth or so. Yeah.
I mean, right by the Red Onion.
Yeah.
But my man, I seen it change my life because I'm that kid. I'm the New York kid who came to LA, didn't fit in quite right, broken home. You know, father was in prison, mother worked around the clock. I was a latchkey kid. I grew up in a neighborhood where it seemed like everybody else had what they needed to have. If they had Atari, we had fucking Tandy. You feel me?
Right.
If they had we had Latigra, they had Lacoste. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They had Mongooses and Diamondbacks, and we had Raleigh Rampars. It was just like, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but as a kid, man, it's like I felt it. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't? So I definitely related to the Outsiders from day one, and then not for nothing, and take it for what it's worth. But like Matt Dillon at that time, a 13-year-old kid watching Matt Dillon, I'm like, yo, that motherfucker is the coolest dude on the planet to me.
Right.
You know, and so like anything to be like that dude. And so I remember coming out of that theater was like, yo, my whole the way I motivated after that was Dallas Winston, which was the character he played. The denim jackets, and I looked through all the history. Like a denim jacket shows up in every. I got two of them. You know, it's still the. You know, how he gets down. I mean, it's like slick back hair, denim jackets, white T-shirts. You feel me? And you can't go wrong with those things. Those are American classics.
Right.
And for me, that's really where my heart has always been, man. I know politics aside, and I've been around the planet, man, and anybody who, you know, anybody who disagrees, that's fine. But there's no better place to if you're a dreamer and you work hard at what you do, there's nothing like the U.S. to make that happen. Is it perfect? No. That's because politics is, you know, is garbage, and just, you know, and I don't even fuck with all that shit. But as a dreamer, I live outside of that realm anyway, man. Those rules never applied to me. As a drug dealer, as a fucking street kid, as a we're doing the gangbanging. That shit didn't apply then. I'm not gonna bring it into my, you know what I'm saying? So I just do me, and what I'm trying to say is, these things are tried and true classics. You feel me? Route 66, Chevrolet, Ford, Levi's, Lee Denim, and it goes into hip hop from Beat Street to the Outsiders to American Graffiti to all of the classics. These are my shits. You feel me? And I'm all excited. I'm spitting and shit. This is like this is, for me, this has always been my sweet spot. So when I found myself in Tulsa, Oklahoma, went looking for those locations, I found the house where the movie was filmed. That house was for sale at that time. They wanted $42,000. Now, living in Beverly Hills, being on tour, I'm going to tell you, and I tell people here, I said, this is 12 years ago when I found the house. I said, even 12 years ago, you couldn't find anything. You still can't find, you could never find anything in Beverly Hills or Los Angeles, California for $42,000 with the word real attached to it, especially real estate. Maybe in 1942, you could have bought a real estate for $42,000, maybe a little cheaper. But my point is, I could not believe that not only one, the Outsider's house was still on Earth, and it looked just like it did when they filmed the movie, that it could be had for $40,000, $42,000. So believe me, I was hooked. I was caught, but I was like, at the time I had a couple years sobriety. I'm like, bro, you have no business buying the world's coolest greaser fort. Known the man in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You've never been here in your life. It's the proverbial string on your sweater. You don't want to pull it because shit could unravel quickly.
Right.
And so I'm like, bro. And it wasn't even like I had a lot of money back then, because I didn't, but I could come up with 40 grand. I'll tell you what, especially if it was something that, you know, intriguing. Right. But I was like, I got to chill. But what happens after that is, like, I'm the only sober dude that on that tour bus. I just bought a new camera and I was highly caffeinated. So I thought, well, we're at a very unique time in history where on that tour bus I had brought my laptop. We had a Wi-Fi connection on the tour bus, which is the first time that I remember that was it was the first time it was possible. And also MySpace and Facebook were a thing. And
Right.
Facebook would just started to pop. So what I did was I played Kane's Ballroom, and the owner said, "Hey, your buddy told me you're friends with Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols. Come in my office. I want to show you something." I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "Yo, check it out." And there was a frame with the hole punched in the green wall. And I was like, "Yo, what's that?" They go, "When Sex Pistols played here in '78, Sid Vicious punched a hole in the wall. And when we did the place, we cut the green room wall out. We framed it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So
yeah.
I did a selfie. You know, I had a BlackBerry. I took a selfie. Bang. I did a selfie in front of the Outsiders house, and I posted to Facebook. Now, Facebook 10 years ago, bro, people were stingy with the likes. When I get like the memories, I see
Right.
some great shit. At least in my mind, I'm like, that's some great shit. And
Right.
it's got like 4 likes because we were gun shy. We were like, oh, you know, like people just didn't want to come up because it was foreign to us. We
Right.
didn't know what we were really like saying with the like. Now we're, you know, so I put those things up, bro. I swear my phone was shaking all day long, man. I was like, people were like, where on earth is that house? How the fuck is it still on earth? Is that the real house? Where on the Warner Brothers lot is that house?
Right.
I'm like, it's in Tulsa. They're like, dude, what's a Tulsa? I'm like, bro, the house is real. It's here and it's for sale. People are like, no way. So when that tour continues, I use that tour bus as my time machine. We get to Minneapolis. I go to Mary Tyler Moore's house. I go to where they filmed the opening scene. There's a statue that Nickelodeon put there. When I get to Dallas, I go to the grassy knoll and see where JFK, you know, was
Right.
shot. I think I went to Mickey Mantle's gravesite at that time. And so I start using the bus as really like a pop culture tour in my head. Like we're all on the same tour, but we're all doing a different like program. You understand?
Right.
What I'm saying?
Of
Some
course,
dudes are
yes.
dope in the back.
Yeah.
Some dudes are just. I'm on it like it's a cultural tour, and I'm starting to go everywhere and post these photos of like historic shit. And this is the first time in history where you could kind of pick up your phone. It's a camera. It's a video camera. Your own station, which is Twitter, Facebook, and MySpace at the time. It has navigation and it's connected to Google. So I'm like, okay, Dallas, where is Mickey Mantle buried? And then here's the thing. And then I can get in and get a cab and take me there and I can photo it, upload it immediately.
Right.
And people are like, dude, what are you doing at Mickey Mantle's thing? I'm like, yo, I'm a diehard Yankee fan. Check me out. They're like, yo, that's bonkers, bro. Where is that? I didn't even know he was buried here. So I started to realize I'm onto something here. So I started picking up steam. I put a page together called the Delta Bravo Urban Exploration Team. I started picking up members. People start to do it with me. And really what we started to do after finding the Outsiders house, I take a photo of either a screen grab from a video, a movie, a true crime, a newspaper article, and then I go looking for the actual location. So like I get to the Bronx, I go looking for Beat Street locations. I see where they're walking to school. I see where the party was. My man, who's a retired lieutenant, NYPD, who ran the Vandal Squad, which chased around all our favorite graffiti writers all those years.
Right.
And he gets on the roof where they see the clean train, and they're like, it's so clean, it's so fresh, it's so white. In Beat Street, like that, like first to get in the building, then to get access to the roof, and then to reshoot it. So we started to just pick up steam and get this whole group of like pop culture location experts, all based out of this fucking house in Tulsa. Never in a million years thinking I'm going to end up buying the house, turn it into a museum. But after about a couple of years of doing this stuff, man, I started to notice, like I said, I went up to Greeley, Colorado for one of my favorite movies, which also happens to be Matt Dillon's first movie. It's called Over the Edge. And Over the Edge used to come on late night on like cable channels. And it's I could spend a whole other hour telling you about this, but this movie predicts like Columbine by like 30 years. And it also is the reason why Nirvana did Smells Like Teen Spirit. Kurt Cobain loved this movie so much that video where they start wilding out after the basketball, and it's an homage to the movie Over the Edge. So check that movie if you've never seen it.
I've never seen it. I'm gonna check it out.
Oh, bro, I could tell. On another time, I'll check it with you, and I'll show you 7 degrees of all types of bacon. You'll be like, what the fuck? How had I never seen? You've probably seen it, don't even realize you saw it. But I go up to the school before they demo it. And so what starts to happen is a lot of these famous spots start to just disappear right after we start to see them. I take a photo, we match it, we do a Photoshop where we put the old with the new.
Yeah, I like how you guys do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we give up the information, which a lot of people who used to be location scouts or used to location hunters, they would post their stuff to like Flickr accounts, but they would omit the address because they didn't want you to know. And I'm like, nah, bro, I want you to know where this happened.
Right.
I want you to see where history happened, bro. Like, why wouldn't I give that up to you? So we started to do that, and it became a thing. So at 5-year mark, I was starting to make every year I would go across the U.S. doing this shit on my own free time, on tours, whatever. And I would always make a beeline for Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I felt like, yo, this is my favorite spot. I found the house. It started the Delta Bravo here. And every year I'd come back to this neighborhood over here, I'd realize that the house was starting to look worse and worse every year. And I noticed that the Habitat for Humanity was coming through and they were about to clear out this whole neighborhood and tear everything out. And I started to worry. Maybe other people don't understand the value of this house, not only like financial value, but just the cultural value that it has to Tulsa, Oklahoma in particular.
Absolutely.
And the legacy of Francis Ford Coppola directed The Outsiders, which is a whole other, like, I touched on it, but that, to me, that's still like, it's all of my favorite things. It's Greasers, it's Americana, it's Matt Dillon, it's fucking Patrick Swayze, it's Diane Lane, it's S.C. Hinton, my favorite author, my favorite director, some of my favorite actors. And so I'm like, I got to figure out how to buy this house because they're looking like they're going to tear it down.
Right.
And the tenants are destroying it, right? It's like a trap house. And so I finally find a way to get a hold of the owner, and I had my man call because I don't know how I come off on the phone. It probably ain't good. So he called. This motherfucker is he don't introduce him to your boys if they got money because he'll get them. You feel me? Like,
right.
He's good.
Yeah.
So I had him call. He first he was insulted. He's like, he didn't understand what I'm talking about. He's like, a $40,000 house. What is that? I don't even know if that's real. Like, you couldn't imagine someone's that cheap. And I said, you seen the movie The Outsiders? He's like, no. I'm like, oh,
geez,
what? Man. I'm like, yeah, no, because he got so much money, he ain't got time for music and culture. That's a whole other story. So he makes the call. He calls me back. He's like, yeah, I left the message. She just finally called me back. I said, what'd she say? She said she won't take a penny less than 20 grand. I offered her 15. I go, stop fucking with me. He goes, you bought the house. I go, what do you mean I bought the house? I go, Don, I didn't say to buy the house. I said, ask her if she was ever going to sell. I said, I know it's off market. And I know at one point it was for sale for 40 grand. And if she's ever interested in selling, would she give us a call? We might be interested. He's like, well, too late now. You told me to get it. I'm like, Don, you fucking with me. He's like, bro, you bought the house. I was like, holy shit. The good news is at that time we used to deal with watches back and forth. And I had a gold Daytona that I sent back to him that he gave me 15 grand for. So he's like, I'm just keeping the watch. So I bought the house for a gold Daytona.
For a Rolex.
Which it's ironic, but that's how I ended up with the house. So I couldn't believe it. I felt like I robbed the lady because for 15 grand, what? I not only own a piece of real estate, I own the house from The Outsiders, but I had bought it sight unseen because I only been outside of it taking photos. So I drive all the way from LA, man. I get here. They didn't leave me no keys. I paid another $5 for the tenants to leave, which they happily left. You know what I mean? So I'm in it now for 20 grand. They don't leave me keys, but what they did leave me was fucking parting gifts. They trashed that place, and it was an episode of Hoarders. I broke in. I almost fainted from the smell and the atrociousness. I was like, oh man, this. I just flushed 20 grand down the tubes, man. And I was panicked. I was like, because I had 28 grand on my name at that time, bro.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm fucked right now. And so what I started to think was, this can't be Danny's fort anymore. This ain't my first house since the 90s, since the House of Pain era. This has to be something bigger and better. And if I'm going to ask for help, I got to do something righteous with this thing. So I started to think, maybe I'll make an Outsiders House museum and turn this into,
incredible
at the time
idea.
I had one poster, bro. I had one poster, one Outsiders poster. That's all the only collectible I had.
Oh, wow.
It was a good poster. It was a $250 poster, but it was the only thing I had. And so I started to put a GoFundMe together, man, and I started to just, get a little news picked up on it, and the town surrounded me, and it was like the little train that could, man. And it was just like, I think I can, and it was through a lot of little actions, which were the biggest actions. What I'm trying to get at, the number one investor over the 3-year period to redo it is the actual author, S.C. Hinton. Originally, she was the biggest donor. She gave me $10,000, which I almost fainted. Year 2 came around. She gave me 15 grand, to which my man said, yo, she likes you 5,000 times more than she did last year. That's a good thing. You understand? Year 3 came around, and right at the end, she gave us another 10 grand. Jack White, the musician from the White Stripes, played. He played the baseball field here. We have you're a Yankees fan. I was gonna say your team, but we have the Dodgers AA or AAA team here, the Drillers. So we have a beautiful stadium downtown that they just built a couple years back. And the first concert they ever had was Jack White played it. And after the show, the next morning, he wanted to come see the Outsiders House. I had never met him in my life, and I'm a fan. But I was like, so he invited me to the show. We met for a second. He's like, if you're around tomorrow, I'd like to see the house. I'm like, it's not finished, man. It's still, he's like, yeah, no, I get it. I want to come check it out. I'm a big fan. So he came by and he said, "Where are you at?" I said, "Well, we've been doing this for almost 2 years, man, and it's just been way bigger project than I could ever imagine. I mean, this whole house needed a whole new house. I mean, we from the bottom up, and you just can't repair it like a new house. We did it to exacting standards." And he said, "Where are you with your GoFundMe?" And I had just did the math that week because I had been sloppy with it for a while. I started to get, the fuck it's and the what the hell, it's taking too long. And,
Right.
And so I went through my numbers again, and I say that for anybody listening out there, always be concise and clear with your numbers when you're doing a project like this. Because when he asked, I had all the right answers. I said, "Here's what we have. Here's where I'm at. Here's what I need." And he said, "I want to." So I was 30,000 shy of my magic number, which was 75,000 to redo the house. And he said, "I'm going to give you that money." I said, "Excuse me?" He's like, "I'm going to give you 30,000 from last night's show. I want to see you win, and make this happen." And there was a collective of like gas, and he didn't make me chase it or nothing. I mean, 10 minutes after he left, someone texted me. He's like, "Yeah, I'm the accountant. It's like Shoba Shaba right now, so we don't roll, but when the holiday's over, I'm going to send you the check." And like within 72 hours, I had a $30,000 check from Jack White, man, which got us over the hump. But in between the Jack Whites and the Susie Hintons and other things like that, there was a lot of, "Hey, man, I don't have much, but after soccer practice on Sunday, when my daughter's done, I will come over and we'll mow your lawn." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, we'll do that." "Hey, I noticed your roof is leaking. I'm going to come up on a weekend when my crew is off, and we'll do that ourselves, and we'll fix your roof." "Hey, I noticed you have all of these dead trees. This tree is going to fall in your house. Me and my crew will come and cut it down, and we'll take it away." Really? One after the other, it was like that, man. I mean, they're doing a documentary right now. Gina Davis she's got a production company, and there's a squad who I'm missing their name right now, but we've had PBS done a thing out here. We've had all the local news. They're doing a documentary on this. It's really not about me. It's about how this whole thing kind of just sprouted out of
snowball,
like, yeah, because and in Tulsa. So now I left Beverly Hills 2.5 years ago. I never thought I would say that or do that. I had a nice little life, man.
And I would never think that you would be in Tulsa of all places. Trust me. New York.
You know what?
We both New York, LA cats. Yeah.
I know, but you know what, dude? This is really the place to be. And I think a lot of people, I get a lot of emails and texts from people that are close to me and some that aren't too close that I just know. And they're like, "You really love it like that much? I've been thinking of leaving New York." There's a lot of people, man, are sick and tired of like politics, high prices, and overcrowdedness of the big cities. And even though, this is the heartland of America, you come here, man, and it's like being back in the days. Your car breaks down, 10 people come out to push you. They're not honking, giving you the finger, telling you to fuck off or get out of the way. Gas prices right now are $1.27, and I know there's because of the pandemic, but average gas prices here are always around $2 a gallon, man. I live in a historic hotel. I live on the top floor on the 17th floor in the corner unit, which means I have windows. It's Wait Phillip from Phillip 66, the oil barons old apartment. I paid $1,900 a month rent here. So, and with 2 parking spaces in 2 different buildings and key up to the thing, it's like different strokes. You feel me?
Right.
I'm like a drumming up in this piece. I assure you. So you could buy beautiful mid-century modern houses here for about 150 to 200,000. And when I first started coming here about a decade ago, you could have bought those houses for $90,000 to $120,000. So prices are starting to rise, but it is next level stuff. If I blindfolded you and took you to South Tulsa, which is not, I mean, I'm downtown, from Midtown to South Tulsa, I could unblindfold you, and you'd be like, "Come on, man, we're in Hancock Park." I'm like, "No, we're not." People don't know, or maybe people aren't familiar. This is the oil capital of the world. So this city in particular was all the oil tycoons. So the Getty fortune was made here, Wade Phillips and Phillips 66, 100 other Sunco, DX, all of the oil barons are from here. So they're usually East Coasters that came here during the oil rush days, made their fortune, and then moved to the West Coast. But so there's mansions and houses over here that that rival any of the biggest old school mansions in LA, like the Greystone Mansion, all that. There's mansions here that are like, damn, I can't believe this is in the Midwest. This is the Paris of the Midwest. So make no mistake, we have the third largest collection of Art Deco buildings around here, and they're all oilmen buildings, only second to Chicago and New York. So you walk around here, Jay, and you'll be like, "Yo, D, it's crazy," because I feel like I'm on a movie set of like 1920s Chicago or 1930s New York City. It's incredible, bro. It's bonkers. What it's missing, and I'll tell you right now, it's it needs more people because a lot of people, the oil companies moved out in the 80s, man. They all went to Texas. And so the money kind of dried up. They still pull oil out of the ground in Oklahoma. That's the easy part. But the big companies left. And it created like a vacuum here. And so this city died for like the hotel I'm living in was shuttered for 20 years. Hobos were living in it. And it was almost about to get demolished. The guy who bought it, I think he got it for $1. He bought it from somebody who bought it for $250,000 and couldn't find the financing to do it. He bought it for $1, but he had to raise $44 million to redo it. So, you feel me? It takes the right guy to do that type of shit. You feel me? So, but now this city has found its third wind, and it's starting to like really start to thrive. So we have the biggest. We have we have the BOK Center, which is again like Barclays or Staples Center. For 2 years in a row, it's number one in that chain. I think it's AEG who owns it. I might be wrong. Don't quote me. Everybody from Janet Jackson to U2 to Guns N' Roses, they all start their tours here because this is where they shake off the rust and get down and try some new stuff before they get to LA or New York or whatever, which is incredible. They all stay here right across the street because I'm here at the most prestigious address in Tulsa. There's a lot to love is what I'm saying. I feel like I'm joining the tourist board, but if you come, which I encourage you to come out here, the only thing you'll say to me, and this is the only thing, I've had people come here and all sorts of people, bro. I'm talking from just regular old school friends to actors that you know of to famous musicians who are playing and then come over and then we hang for a couple of days until the tour leaves. And they all say the same thing. They're like, they're like, you really living here? I'm like, yeah, man. They're like, that's incredible. Why? And I'm like, and then I get them in the car and I show them around. They're like, holy shit, this is incredible. And then they go, how much your house is? And I'm like, hey, now slow down, bro. I gotta get one first. You really like? I start to see the wheels going, but then the third question is like, where's all the people though? And I'm like, and I always tell them we're early, just like getting to a party at 10 o'clock.
Right?
You're like, man, this party's whack. You're like, bro, calm down. Have a cold one and chill out. Next thing you know, it's 12 o'clock, and you're like, dang, you're like, you're getting it in, and you're like, this is the best party I ever been to. But if you're impatient or you want it to already be, now's the time to get to where you want to get. You want to get in on the ground floor of anything. Now's the time to start moving to Texas, Oklahoma, all these middle America spots. Because if you're a dreamer and you're a true creative, it feels like it used to feel to me when we would go to Melrose or we would live in certain spots where you could just come with a crazy dream. We're white dudes, we want to rap and we want to do Irish hip hop and we want to get bald heads and flannels. And people are like, shut the fuck up and get a job, man. And you're like, watch. And you could do it. In LA, it's hard to do that anymore. That's not real anymore. That's like it's all reality TV still and weirdo shit.
Oh man, it's terrible.
Too. It's all rich people from other places, that are buying sky. There's no bohemian / like that shit is alive and well here. The American dream is alive and well here. You can come here and you can do what you got to do, and people will support it. And that's the and maybe Austin has that, I think so, and Nashville has that. But all of the Music City and Austin being weird and all, there's something to that. And Texas had it 20 years ago with Austin, and Nashville's had it for the last 20 years. But now it's like Tulsa's time, and it's starting to find its renaissance. And I'm telling you, a lot of art, a lot of music, a lot of culture here right now, and it always has been,
I'm coming. Yeah, I'm definitely coming. I want to see the house, the outside.
And you know me. I mean, bro, I wouldn't tell you. I would have, because I could have lived both spots.
Right.
I could have got a spot here, did the project, opened the museum, and let it, and do what it's gonna do, and then stay back. But I was like, man, why would I go back when I could visit anytime I want, but I could build here.
Right.
I could really start over and build here. And that's where I was trying to get earlier with the music and all of that shit. Like, if you're not like Everlast, that's what he is. He is a musician's musician. He's a real deal. Always that. No matter if if we bump heads every once in a while, or we fight now and then we're friends later, whatever. I'll never take, like, he's the real deal with that. So he knows what he's going to do for the rest of his life.
Right.
He's committed to that one thing, which he's great at.
Right.
And I know, I knew that from the day I met him. And Lethal, like I said, he's still telling you about drum machines because his head, it could be 88 or it could be 2020, and he's still geeking out.
Right.
I'm not that dude. My mind is so like, I'm all over with the ideas and the creative stuff that I always have to refine my thing. Here I found a purpose, and I can rap with this. I originally thought that I was saving a house, which I did. I couldn't imagine life or the world without the Outsiders house, because when I first got here and found it, it was the closest I could get to a time machine, where I felt like a 13-year-old kid who saw that movie, and I could not believe that the train was going by in the distance and the dogs were barking just like in the movie, and this house was looking just like it did. The whole neighborhood hadn't changed since '82, since they filmed there, or '67, which was the year it was supposed to be. It just felt, the drive-in is still up from the movie, and it's still an active drive-in. The Admiral Twin, the Circle Cinema from the cinema, it's all still here. And I was like, holy fuck, I am like in a dream sequence right now. Could not believe it. And I still feel that way every time I show up at this house. So I bought the house thinking I just didn't want them to tear it down. And then when I realized what bad shape it was, I knew I had to ask for help. And I will tell anybody listening, and take it from a 6'6" alpha male who's grew up in an era where I could never think about asking for help. It was the most weak thing I could do, is say, I don't know what I'm doing, help me. Maybe you didn't feel that way growing up, but I felt that way, that people would be, motherfucker, get you, like, you should already be knowing, like, I couldn't ask. And it almost killed me, because that pride and that ego and that bullshit gets in the way. And I was willing to put that aside for once and ask for help for a better cause. And people, it's weird what happens. You ask for help, Jay, people will show up.
It's called growing up.
I know, bro. It really is. And so I asked for help, and I got that help, and they helped me build this thing out. So people thank me all the time. I'm like, don't thank me, man. You guys, we did this together. So what happens is I go from just Operation Save Outsiders House to Operation I'm building a movie museum. Along the way, in the last 3 years, I've collected the largest collection of Outsiders memorabilia, from books to screen worn. I have all the heroes' clothes. Most of the wardrobe ends up back here in some way or another. I have posters and DVDs and VHS tapes and books and scripts and notes and letters, and I have from all over the planet. We've thrown 3 events here. We had a lot of the stars back. I haven't had Tom Cruise, Diane Lane, and Matt Dillon, and we had other things in the works until this pandemic. My point is this: it went from Save the House, which we did, then to a movie museum, which we built. But the real client and the real fan of this house is the 7th grader and the whole family. And what's missing for me and for hip hop in general, I often tell this to people all the time, and they don't get it until I tell them. I'm like, hip hop is still missing its generational wealth. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm 51, right? If my father was still alive, I'm going to guess he'd be 75, right?
Right.
And I can guarantee you that if he was alive, he would want to go see the Rolling Stones. I would want to go see the Rolling Stones. If I would have had kids, they'd be 25. They'd want to go. And if their 10-year-olds were around, they would put headphones on them and take them too. We could bring the whole family tree to see the Rolling Stones, and we would all be. Hip hop is missing that. Maybe Wu-Tang would be the first group to have that kind of, but it sucks for hip hop, because if you go up on Hollywood Boulevard, you see punk rock shirts and you see rock bands. Guns N' Roses shirts will always be relevant.
Right.
There's maybe a Wu-Tang is the only one that could still, like, or Public Enemy could still fit in that. But hip hop is still, like, disposable in a way. You feel me? Like, it's like turn and burn. Like, Rakim becomes like just a footnote in, like, your favorite MC, but he should be at the Forum still. He should be, you know what I mean? Like,
He said, I see him at these little places now. Little places. Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to think of why I was tying that together. Oh, so the Outsiders is one of those legacies, man, where everybody from 80-year-olds to 8-year-olds come, and either they've read the book, they were here when they were filming, they went to school with Susie when she was, writing the book in '67. This novel and this movie have an impact that are greater than the sum total of its parts. Before the pandemic, they were about to premiere. There's a musical now, The Outsiders, the musical, which Susie's involved in, Coppola's involved in. They've reimagined it, so characters are all colors and all genders and all sexual preferences. That's happening, and then there was also supposed to be a reboot. And I don't know if I should do, but they're working on a television project as well. So this story just keeps, The Outsiders is still alive and well, and future generations are going to discover it. And one day soon, kids are going to go, is this the place that I saw the musical on Broadway with my dad? I'm like, yeah, it's the same place. Even though, it started here and it's a little different reimagined. Yes, it's the same thing. And what I found was my purpose here was to open this museum up to school students. So we are open to the public on the weekend for, regular movie museum tours, but Monday through Friday, we're closed to the public. And our biggest clients, if you will, or customers are schools. And we get grant money, and we bring in 50 people at a time on their school bus. They have just finished reading the novel. They go to the Circle Cinema where the movie was filmed and see it, and that's what she's talking about. As I stepped out to the from the dark movie house, the opening line of The Outsiders, which I'm loving, they see the movie there, and then they come to the Outsiders House Museum, and it's all like mind-blowing for them. And they're all 7th and 8th grade kids, and this is like,
That's
again,
dope.
this is bigger than all of the other things, because these kids it's like Willy Wonka for them. They're getting to go to the place like they're
The
live on
chocolate
set.
factory.
Right. I'm saying they're like this is where it happened. The museum is part of the collection.
Right.
It's not like a building that I built to put the collection in. The museum is the thing that houses the biggest collection is also a collectible. And so when they're like, they can't believe that it still exists, and that they're actually at it after reading the book and imagining it, and then seeing the movie at the theater. Then they drive to the house and see it. And we had those 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes 3 a day. So it's hundreds of students coming through on the during the week, and
That's
minds were
awesome.
blown. I know in 10 years I'm going to see those kids, and they're going to be like, "Yo, you don't remember me, but I was 12 when I came through. This is my seed now," and she's reading it. And you changed my my whole shit with this. So that really is the purpose, and that was what I was missing in hip hop, and that was what I was, and not because of hip hop's fault, because I'm a creative director. I'm a conceptual artist. Once I do my job, you can throw me under the bus because my job is done. I get paid once for that gig.
Right.
You write music and you get publishing, and that's mailbox money.
Right.
I still get I just still do merch and all that stuff. But my point is this. I had long outworn my usefulness in hip hop, and I still go out and I still do my thing with La Coka, and it's all, we still did a few runs with House of Pain on an anniversary run, and I can still get down for mine. But my heart is not the same as it was at 21, trying to
of course,
make a name and wild out. It's just, I'm a 51-year-old man who's like, yo, bro, those, I don't mind riding the gravy train every once in a while for old time's sake. But I got to do something that's like, when it's time to go in the box for me, I want to say, man, this Outsider's House gave me that it's a mitzvah forward for all the stupid shit I was doing as a kid and as a teenager, because a lot of the shit, and a lot of it we're not touching on, and that's cool. But just running around up to no good all the time, I feel like this is the greatest gift ever given to me. And all I got to do is just show up and open it and explain what happened in this house and how we put it together, and let the kids have their way with it. And bro, it's my living mitzvah forward, and it's also me paying, the karma debt.
The karma debt.
Whether if I ever clear it out or whatever, my job is to try as hard as I can to be of maximum service. So I speak at other schools. They gave me an honorary diploma. I got a 9th grade education, bro. I went to Taft and hung out. I never went inside, bro. I went inside a couple of times to show them what kind of sneakers or creepers I was wearing, but I never really, I didn't stay in there too long. They gave me an honorary diploma from Will Rogers, which is S.E. Hinton's, high school, where she wrote it. And then I did the commencement address for the graduating class, which was so big that they had it at the TU at Tulsa University basketball auditorium, and it was on television live. Which I didn't even, and I'm not bragging, I'm telling you I was terrified. I didn't know it was going to be on TV. I would have bailed out. But this is what happens when you get out of your own way and you get your shit. I just celebrated 15 years sobriety, okay?
Congrats,
April 15th.
Nice.
I'm doing my thing, and you know what? It's enough. The gratitude and the willingness to just to keep going has been my saving grace. And I love what I do here, and I do what I love here. You feel me? And everything else is a gift, man. I woke up this morning, coffee at the ready, fresh water, hot shower, shelter, and warm blankets. What else? I mean, everything after that is up to me to, I can either look for the beauty or look for the problem. I don't look for the problem. I'm always looking for the little things that make a lot of little things turn out to be one big good life, And so,
And I'm at that place too. So I fully understand the way you wake up, Now, you were talking about Taft. Did you go to, or did you stop into Taft?
No, so Taft,
when Ice Cube was there.
So he was there same years. I don't remember. I seen him once or twice. I remember, but I wasn't hanging with that dude at none of that. But yeah, he was there from Parkman, and I was there from Sutter. So when I used to go to Sutter Junior High, and half of that went to Cleveland, which was all the Heschers. I did not want to go there, and I lived in a condominium that was like divided by half of them had to go to Cleveland, and half go to Taft. And for me, again, although I was a b-boy, man, you know this, and a lot of other people when we grew up, they knew this. I was always like half b-boy, half like, you know, punk rock, new wave. Like that was my whole, like the Mickey Mouse Club shit, which was
MMC,
like a punk rock gang. Yeah, it was a punk rock gang. So I was, you know, dressing like a cholo, half and b-boy. You know, like we were getting, you know, getting with it. You know, just doing our thing. And so I, you know, it was half Suicidal Tendencies and half Run DMC, if you will. You know,
right,
those
exactly.
were two my main influence, Mike Muir and DMC. You know, if you could put those two together, I'm in there somewhere. You feel me? Like in between, trying to act like either one of those at any given time. And so Taft for me was like it was a feather in my cap because I had always, you know, all the hot chicks, all the rich chicks south of the boulevard, and all the dudes had like Keith Durr was up there, Kenny Durr. We had there was a lot of cool dudes up there and hot chicks. So I couldn't wait. But I got up there and I was like, nobody really. It was still an open campus per se, man. It was very like lenient and light. And by the time I got to 10th grade, I'm like, I don't even want to do this anymore. But I didn't know what else to do. So I was at the mall stealing, or I was up at Taft hanging out. And so I never really, I went in, but I don't know that any teachers would remember me, you know?
Right.
I don't know. And then I started getting in trouble. So I started going to juvenile hall. When I got out of juvenile hall, they're like, you don't live in our district anymore. So they sent me to Canoga. I went to Canoga. Then I went to Canoga's continuation school. Then I went to the West Valley Occupational Center. I checked in the Chatsworth for 1 week, and I got caught smoking in the park, and they threw me. So I just kept trying to hop, skip, and jump, and just trying to not go back to juvenile hall because I was on probation. And if I wasn't enrolled somewhere, they were going to put me back, and they did put me back for a weekend because I either had a job or had to have a job or had to be in school. So at the end, I was at West Valley Occupational Center, just fucking around, not trying to go to until they let me off probation. And after that, again, I was just doing hood shit. Everybody in the valley was either selling or up to no good. I mean, at least I was, and everybody I was running with.
Well, what I can say, because people know how I got my turntables. I got my turntables from Run the Streets, and but when I was really interested in first getting into the business, you would sort of say, I called you, and you hooked me up, and I was able to run in this business and get my turntables.
That's crazy. See, I don't even remember, man. I'm glad. Half the shit is to save me from knowing, because if I knew, I hear stories all the time. I'm like, you sure that's me? They're like, bro, we're sure. I'm like, son of a bitch, and I don't know. I'll apologize in advance, but I'm glad you got your turntables.
Changed my life. Yeah, I got my turntables.
Hey, I mean, again, you know what? I'm going to tell you, and this is, I take responsibility for everything I've ever done. But we were products of our environments, and me in particular, man. I grew up. There's a lot of broken homes and we didn't help that by doing what we were doing. But there's a lot of people, man, who grew up with parents full time at work, gone, left alone to our own devices, and it becomes that like rite of passage. And early in hip hop, it was celebrated, man. I mean, the worst thing you could be in hip hop back in the day, and still well, maybe not still to this day, I got to be honest with you, but the worst thing you could be was a drug user, because it was the crack era. It was like, you crackhead, you're out. You can't even be in hip hop if you're on drugs.
Yeah.
Or a snitch.
Right.
In the hood, I mean, those two things, like, those are like, and nowadays with Tekashi and all that shit, making snitching cool and all that, and the amount of drugs that every rapper's on in this, in this era. And now we all know, if we know the history, everybody was on drugs back in the day, including Run DMC, including fucking Grandmaster Flash. The cocaine was rampant in those eras. They just didn't, they lied about it or put it in the bag. I could tell you, listen, I know a lot about hip hop that a lot of people don't. And so, it's not my job but I can assure you, people were still getting down, but it was very hidden to the general public. Now, every rapper, that's all they do is amortizing that.
They're rapping about it,
And they have been for almost 20 years now, because even with La Coka Nostra, Slane, that was his gift, was his pain, describing all of that shit and what he was using to deal. And real talk, he came up when him and Eminem was just getting signed and was doing all that shit with Ruckus. Slane used to go by John Doe, and they were neck and neck for like white dudes with this incredible skill to talk about all this painful shit. And when Eminem blew, it kind of like, it did a little, there was already that guy now. So, but when I hear like certain dudes spit, like they were Ill Bill too, him and his brother Necro, they were talking about all of this crazy shit. And so it's a thing now.
Right.
Everybody, and that's cool. It needed to happen.
Right.
But we didn't grow up in that era. We grew up in the era of like, you want a gold chain, you want beepers. The beeper better work because I'm a patient right now. If that shit don't, we fucking you up just for front. You feel me?
Right.
And if you wanted Cazelles and you wanted Nugget jewelry, you try to get like Jeff Caputi. You remember him?
Yeah, I remember. Oh, yes,
man. You wanted
man.
Dayton's.
Yeah.
If you wanted Serwin Vegas.
Caputi.
Fucking.
Caputi had the red Ferrari, right?
Which car didn't he have?
Okay, I'm just saying, like, because he lived like right up the street from me.
Bro,
So
I can name names that everybody was like from top to bottom, bro.
Yeah.
The point is, I seen that. I wanted a GSXR. I wanted. You ain't gonna get that. I worked at the record store at the end. It was a great job, but they pay me $2.80 an hour.
Right.
I mean, it was minimum wage, bro. And even when I worked with Everlast at a place called Pace Membership Warehouse, and we used to get paid $5 an hour. It was like the first Costco. Before there was Costco, it was a membership warehouse on DeSoto, and they used to pay $5 an hour. And even $5 an hour was like double what everybody else is making. At the end of the week, you couldn't drive even a rabbit. You couldn't take a payment for it. You can't. So when you're like now, you're making. I used to make a couple $1,000s a week,
right,
moving the crowd, and I wasn't even doing much.
Right.
I wasn't doing much, and so you can understand why it's appealing. And when nobody's frowning upon it, when everybody's like, get some, or I'm like, bro, I needed Fila's. I needed Elise. In my mind, I needed Champion hoodies. Right. I needed Louis Vuitton belts. I needed to go down to Sloss and Swap Me to get my shit custom up.
Right.
I needed these things. I needed Serwin Vegas, bro. I needed this shit, bro.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we all tried to say.
You know what? I poisoned motherfuckers. For my own benefit, for fucking material goods, I poisoned half my friends because most of my fucking customers were my friends at one point.
Oh, got you.
Who were dabbling. You understand?
Right.
And then they ended up getting fucking hooked on shit I didn't know because I never used back then, bro.
Right.
I was scared of freezing in my mouth to test the shit.
Right.
I wasn't a drug addict back then. I drank, but I never used. So I didn't understand what the shit I was doing. Like I understood it was illegal, but I didn't. Like I said, politics. I don't give a fuck what's illegal. I'll tell, I'll decide with my, in my mind that, you know what I mean? Like what's right and what's wrong. Right. I didn't think it was wrong. I thought it was right that because if you're going to do it, it's on you. But now I look back, man, no wonder and I feel like all the shit that I had to go through with my own drug addiction and all that fucking losing all my teeth and fucking living in abandoned warehouses and shit. It was the least I could do to pay back all the fucking damage I had caused. Right. And if there was any karmic justice in this whole thing, maybe that's what the fuck, to get some empathy and some understanding, man. I'm ashamed of it. I used to look at it like, but because of my sobriety and because of the 12 steps, we don't shun the past or run from it. And if anybody can learn from it or relate to it, then they'll understand. And I can connect with that person in a way someone who hadn't been through that won't be able to connect. Right. Because I won't connect head to head with that person. I'll connect heart to heart. Because they'll feel me and they'll say he's authentic. I understand because he's talking like I talk. He understands what I'm feeling and fucking with, so I can relate and reach that person. So that's why I have no problem. I'm as transparent as you can imagine, and that's not because I'm fucking white Irish. You know what I'm saying? You can see through me because I allow you to. Because I have to do it so you know who I am. That I could then be authentic to you. And that is, and the corny, it's not corny, but when you hear people saying namaste and shit like that, it's really a beautiful thing because it's the God in me recognizes the God in you. And that's a better connection. When I talk to people, the kids, whoever, I don't front. I talk just the way I'm talking to you right now. And the teacher's like, well, he speaks so, imagine 20 years ago how we talk. People are using derogatory terms, oh, you want to be black or you want to be this, we're just kids who grew up running around the streets doing our thing. But when I talk to kids, they come to me and they're like, I get what he's talking about. And I tell them, I told them at the commencement, I'm an addict, alcoholic. and therefore for the grace of God go I, if I wasn't, so here I am offering what little I know to you, and that is to, to stick with it and don't, let anybody
Right.
tell you and follow your heart. And so again, my whole purpose that I found here because of a house from a movie that I saw when 13, it all doesn't make sense on paper, but it all makes sense in life. It's given me a purpose, and my purpose now is to be of maximum service to the community at large, but in particular, at-risk youth, kids that feel separated. I spoke to kids and told them my father was in prison growing up. Girl came to me crying, saying, "Man, I couldn't tell nobody. My mom's in jail right now. We had a big." So my purpose now is to do
That's awesome.
outreach and to really connect with people who don't feel that they have anybody that they could talk to in that moment. I don't do that full time. I'm not a
Right.
fucking counselor thing. But when
Right.
we talk, they finally somebody's talking my language about my situation that I don't hear with all the other, and so it is it is like I am an outsider who came into Tulsa and then doing what I do, and it took an outsider, and really that's what I feel complete now in this for now. Who knows what
Right.
comes out of that, but right now, man, I'm doing whatever I can do to try to be again of maximum service.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That's incredible. I love it. Yeah.
Johnny Rivers too. I always when I think of you, I always think of him because you're my man.
He's always
that motherfucker could dance.
Yeah, he's always in my. I go live on my Facebook, so I go live.
I see him on Facebook too, man. He's great. But you guys, man, you Guy and everybody used to get down, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
it was good.
Shit.
It was
we
good
had
times.
Good times, man.
Yeah.
It was. You know what? We are the first generation to ever in the history of humans that we know of, right? To grow up knowing what it's like to not have a computer in our life and the internet,
right,
and then to be able to adapt to it as we are now and utilize it as a tool in our life. These kids growing up now, they never know what it's not like to be a brand, to have to have a social face, and then I have another. Everything is. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying. I'm so glad that I had to be on be home when the lights were on, or we knew everybody was when the bicycles were on the front lawn. And that was such a idyllic, even though it was, what a blessing is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, absolutely.
To experience the last decade of that before it turned into what it is now. And so we're in a unique position, and we're living in crazy times, and people I see a lot of people on the internet freaking out, but really, man, enjoy the show. It's like you get one life, you ride it out, and I'm glad it's not even keeled and boring, or I'm glad it ain't the Middle Ages and fucking motherfuckers are trying to ride on horseback and cut our heads off. So I mean, it's up to you to bring that attitude, And
I always say you can't enjoy up here if you don't go through down here. So it has to be that roller coaster.
Listen, I do whatever it takes. It is what it is, bro. I just try to my side of the street is the only thing I'm responsible for.
Right.
I try to I start off prayer, meditation, and a fucking gratitude list every morning. I share that gratitude list, and then whatever the day brings, I deal with it. You know what? And no matter what, there's bad moments in every day, but life is beautiful if you choose to look at it in that way. And so I come from that. And that's a 180 from who I was or how I grew up. You know what I mean? So,
right. Oh, man, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing.
Always, man.
And doing
and then
all this,
other
man.
than that, I mean, the only thing I really miss is the Yankees, bro. I mean,
oh my God,
baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, for people who don't understand, if you want to know what being a touring musician is like, it's like quarantining, except for 1 hour you go out and do the show, and then you come back, and then you're back in the hotel. Yeah. I really quarantined for 20-something years for the most part, being ridiculous. But you understand what I'm saying.
I
I'm
understand
good at holding myself hostage, doing what I need to do, and still being able to, get my eggs and my milk and my bread. But this thing will be over sooner than we know it. And, maybe life won't be as we knew it prior, but, you mutate, you survive, you adapt, and you keep pushing. And it's going to be what it's going to be. And I feel like, you know what? The deck just got shuffled, man. The whole world went through this.
Right.
And let's see. Now we got a new hand. I don't know what it looks like. Some people are losing their businesses. Right. And I'll say this in rap. I got a friend, and hopefully he's not watching this, but it's my good dude that I met here He's helped me with this house from day one. He owns a venue here. It's a small music venue. And I'm not wishing that it goes under, but the venues took it the hardest because the acts canceled 2 months before there was a worldwide lockdown. And they'll be the last to come back because the large attendance is not going to be something
Social
that any
gatherings.
group, and that's right. So they're going to take the largest hit. But my man is chain smoking, drinking fucking Coca-Colas all day long or Diet Cokes all day long, eating fucking barbecue, and wasn't killing it anyway money-wise. Maybe it's the universe saying now it's time to figure out a new fucking job that you do.
Right.
Because your kids need you longer than being 50 and get a heart attack.
Right.
You know? And so
Right.
what I'm trying to get at, that's just one example. But my point is like, bro, we don't know what the future brings, man.
Right.
So people are losing shit, and it probably is painful as fuck. I'm not saying it ain't, but maybe when you look back, you're like, that is what needed to happen. You know how many times I've met people, and I got friends that are LAPD, NYPD, and they say, Danny, I can't tell you how many times I arrested motherfuckers, high as a motherfucker, down in the nickel, telling them they're going to kill me when they get out, and then they somehow find me on the beat, and they thank me because they say, dude, I was at the last seconds and inches of killing myself on drugs, this and that. I now clean myself up because of that arrest.
Right.
And what you did was stop me from, going over the edge. And how can I thank you, officer? And that is the weirdest, we don't, and I know a pandemic is a little different, but you know what, bro? It is going to be what it's going to be. It's how you react to it coming out of it. Because right now, I'm losing my ass right now. The house is dead. It's not, I can't have gatherings. I can't have, but I have a trust in the universe or God or whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm just waiting now to see what the next logical step is, and we take it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're talking to a DJ right now who depends on social gatherings.
I know,
So,
bro.
so,
We're
and,
both in the same business. We're
right.
both entertainers. And
Right.
no matter how I slice it, I've always been in a vanity business. And those are the you get the chances. The sky's the limit, but it's feast or famine, and it's usually fucking famine. So it's the life we chose, though, man. So buckle up and make the best of it.
That's what I'm doing. And that's what I'm
There you
doing.
are.
Yeah, man.
Right, man.
Right on.
We go get another ring this year. Come on.
Yes. Come on, pull it. It's about
That's
time.
it.
Yes. We got the
That's it.
squad. We have the squad. So,
Well, listen, man. I appreciate it, brother.
I'd like to thank Danny Boy for vibing with me in the Bird's Nest. Make sure you check him out on IG at official Danny Boy O'Connor. Also on Facebook, the group Delta Bravo Urban Exploration. And if you're ever in Tulsa, make sure you check out the Outsiders House Museum. We'll see you next time on Vibin' in the